This episode of the Busted Wide Open podcast is brought to you by Blueberry. Blueberry offers the best media hosting, accurate listening stats, and their all-new PowerPress Deluxe sites. A no-setup WordPress website for your podcast with all the necessary links to share your show with the world built right in. If you currently produce a podcast and are looking for a better host, or if you're looking to start a new one from scratch, head over to orbitaljigsaw.com/BWO and sign up for the best media hosting and a PowerPress Deluxe site to get your first month absolutely free. That's orbitaljigsaw.com/BWO, or just use the promo code BWO at checkout for your first month absolutely free. And now, enjoy the show.
This is your boy Dak from the 410 Gaming Podcast, and when I'm not doing terrible wrestling impersonations, I'm listening to the Busted Wide Open Podcast on the Orbital Jigsaw Network. Oh, yeah!
You're listening to the Busted Wide Open Podcast, dropping the elbow on the hottest topics in sports entertainment and the world of professional wrestling. With your hosts, Nick Howell and Sir Ian Dangerous. Coming to you from the Orbital Jigsaw Network Arena in sunny Southern California. Welcome back to the Busted Wide Open Podcast, but if this is your first time joining us, I'd like to welcome you to episode number 76. I'm Nick Howell.
And I am Sir Ian Dangerous. And Nick, this week our long national nightmare ended. Finally there was justice. And Baron Corbin shaved his head.
Yes. No more venom laying on the mat. No more any of that stuff. Oh, man.
He looks normal.
You know, I got a bit of a head shave myself this past weekend. Nowhere near the extent of Baron Corbin.
No, you still have a pretty solid Braun Strowman kind of big drifter thing going on there.
Yes.
But yes, Baron Corbin shaved his head, and that's our show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Yes. We'll see you next time. No. We do have a lot to talk about. It is the go-home week for Money in the Bank over in WWE. Also, the last week before Takeover Chicago for NXT. Plus, there's a ton of other things to talk about. We got listeners' questions we have to get into. We have a ton of stuff to get to. But before we get into that, make sure you go to our Facebook discussion group over on Facebook. Join us there. We do talk about a lot of things. We have a pretty lively discussion going on, memes and all kinds of fun things we get into over on Facebook.
Yes, and we also do listener questions every week, which you'll hear at the end of the show here today. So be sure and join into the group and get involved here with the show. You can also find us over on Twitter at BWO Podcast. And hey, if you like what we're doing on this show, head over to patreon.com/BWO. Throw a couple of bucks in the tip jar or sign up to do your very own shoot promo right here on the show.
And before we do anything else, Nick, before we talk about Money in the Bank, and we got to talk about the big news.
Well, seemingly out of nowhere, but we called it. We kind of did. We have to admit.
We did.
We were 50-50. We were on the fence. Omega beat Okada.
Omega beat Okada. Look, if you don't follow New Japan, if you're strictly a WWE person or whatever, we understand New Japan can be a little bit obtuse, hard to get into, but there is no bigger story this week than the fact that Kenny Omega finally dethroned the longest-running current heavyweight champion in the world, Kazuchika Okada, at New Japan's Dominion show, which happened this last week. It is not hyperbole to say that their series of matches, they had 4 in total over the last year and a couple of months, year and change. It is not hyperbole to say that these are some of the greatest matches of all time, and these are 2 of the greatest professional wrestlers working today. This is not hyperbole. That is a fact. Where you rank them, where you rank these matches is completely subjective. But you cannot argue that these were 4 of the greatest matches of all time. And the series as a whole, when put together as a large picture, is one of the most incredible accomplishments in the history of professional wrestling in terms of quality and storytelling and excitement and also athleticism. These guys just went an hour and 5 minutes, give or take, in this last 2 out of 3 falls match. And it was absolutely incredible. And we're not going to get too much into Dominion right now. We're going to talk about that later in the show in the New Japan section. But that is
big enough news to warrant a segment in the big news section.
We needed to stop the show cold and just say, God damn, son. Omega, way to go. He finally got that monkey off his back. Becomes only the second guy ever in New Japan history to hold both the junior heavyweight and then the heavyweight belt. The only other person to ever do that was Nobuhiko Takada. So this is it's a big deal that he has risen his game up through the New Japan ranks to this level. There's a lot of other stuff we're going to talk about here when it comes to Dominion, when it comes to all the different aspects we have to talk about of the outcomes of that show, because it was a crazy show, and there was some very big, how should we put it, like some big movements, some big chances taken by that promotion.
Yeah, we normally don't take a lot of time to talk about the New Japan stuff, like breaking down a show. I actually asked you this week, because there was so much that happened out of this show, if we should do a special New Japan recap, because so much changed. But ultimately, we decided just to kind of keep it here, keep it on the normal weekly show. So stay tuned if you're waiting to hear our takes on what happened at New Japan Dominion. We're going to do that right after we get through the WWE stuff.
That's correct. But before we get into WWE,
come on, Sasha.
I'm going to make this a thing. The WWE, besides WWE, we got to talk about UFC really quickly.
What's UFC?
CM Punk just had his match in UFC.
Oops.
And he lost. Unanimous decision. He made it all the way through, not necessarily because he was good or anything, but because his opponent, Mike Jackson, basically let him. He basically just was playing with him. He tickled him at one point. Like, it just was messing around.
It's like a lion playing with a gazelle, honestly.
Kind of. It's not like Mike Jackson is that amazing of a fighter either. Mickey Gall was much more of a threat.
But if you listen to the Joe Rogan podcast, he's basically going, whoever this guy is going up against Mike Jackson, Mike Jackson's an animal. Mike Jackson's going to tear him apart. That's basically Joe's been saying.
But Mike Jackson got fired from UFC as well because Dana White didn't like the fact that he was playing with CM Punk. He was like, just take him out, dude. Don't make a mockery of this sport. And he said CM Punk's out too because, as Joe Rogan said, he has no talent.
Yes.
He doesn't. It's easy to make yourself look like a big badass when everything's scripted and you can go out there saying I'm the best in the world, but when you actually have to prove it for real, it's a little harder. And it actually makes people like Brock Lesnar, who and Bobby Lashley, who went into MMA. It makes them look a lot more legit because it ain't easy.
No,
it's not easy. And it's not like Punk didn't take time to do it. He took years to try and get his shit together, and he couldn't. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next to him and for him. He said he is completely out of wrestling. It gives him anxiety. He's got all kinds of problems. But
I would still not be surprised if he showed up at All In some capacity.
He's showing up.
I don't know that
sign
Cody has completely come out and said no, but I think that I think that he did say something about he would love to have CM Punk at All In, but it wasn't like a confirmation of any sort.
He's going to be at the convention part of it. He's not going to be at the show, from what we understand. Apparently, he doesn't like big crowds anymore or something. I don't know. Whatever. But the bottom line is CM Punk probably out of UFC, and you probably won't hear a lot from him anymore.
Congrats on not getting sued out of your ass, I guess.
Congratulations on winning the lawsuit. That's a big step in the right direction. But I'm happier for Colt Cabana with that because I think he was a little bit more on the line. He does not have the bank account that CM Punk, the I was champion for a year bank account that CM Punk did. But probably this is going to be better for Colt Cabana in the long run. But that aside, that's our big news for the week. We got to start talking about the build to Money in the Bank, and to do that, we have to go talk about Monday Night Raw.
Lee, and my favorite pay-per-view of the year is finally upon us. Money in the Bank, ladders, briefcases, title opportunities. Oh my God.
Yay! Yay! Yeah. Here's my problem, though, is that watching the shows this week, I felt like they forgot how to build a pay-per-view organically. Everything felt very presentational on both shows. They both opened with these very stilted, very presentational openings. Where you had on Raw, you had all the superstars who were in their respective Money in the Bank matches on ladders in the middle of the ring, staring awkwardly at each other and having a segment where they basically all just yelled at each other awkwardly.
And they even, made the reference to it being the Real Housewives of the WWE, and that because that's exactly what it kind of was. It was annoying.
Yeah, it didn't work for me. It didn't hype me up.
Nope.
For it at all. It was just kind of there. And there was other stuff on both shows that I thought worked a lot better. I don't know where the idea came from to have them open the show in this way, because Here's the problem: is it felt forced. It felt so very forced, and it felt like someone in the back was like, "You guys are going to go out there and do this." And if this, let's say, obviously, WWE has a long way from its presentation being of a legitimate sport. But what this felt like was, management or corporate or creative, whatever. If these were like real wrestlers and real competitors or whatever, this felt like a publicity stunt. And those come over as awkward and uncomfortable, even if this were like a real thing, if this were UFC, if this were something like a football game, and you had all of the guys on each team come out and stand in a pose and, and face off with each other. It just doesn't feel natural, and it doesn't make you engaged. It's just kind of off-putting. And that's kind of how I felt about this. There was entertaining aspects to it. Everyone worked their butt off to try and make it entertaining, whether it was Alexa Bliss and Braun Strowman kind of, referring to the fact that they were mixed match tag competitors.
Well, several
together.
of them did.
Well, they started it off, and then, Sasha and Finn also talked about it, whether it was Alexa and Braun screaming to shut everyone up multiple times, whether it was Kevin Owens calling out hard times. It was there were fun moments, but overall I was just sitting there, why are we doing this? But I don't want to dwell on that. I would like to dwell on the good stuff, which was the matches on this show. You had you had 2 fatal 4-ways between all of the competitors in each gender of the match. So the men's and the women's. So you had Sasha, Alexa, Natalya, and Ember starting off with a fatal 4-way from all the women in the Money in the Bank. And this was, I thought, a really good match with a lot of good moments. Can we get a Sasha and Ember feud, please?
Yes, please.
Because they have some great chemistry here. Kind of like what we saw with Sonya Deville and Asuka.
It would be kind of dangerous because Ember all but murdered Sasha with that suicida running out and into the barricade.
That was such a good one.
Oh, God. She pancaked her into the barricade.
There was some stank on it.
Ember don't know her own strength.
Oh, thank goodness. I love it. But I thought it was interesting that Natty won even with her injured leg. I thought there was something there to that. Like either they're giving...
Yeah, I mean, she's not going to win Money in the Bank.
You don't think?
No. She's not getting that briefcase.
All right. Well, that's. I thought that was an interesting choice to have her win, even with the injury, and then say, "Well, I'm gonna support my friend Ronda Rousey." Sure you are. Sure you are. We also had a fatal 4-way for the men: Finn Balor, Kevin Owens, Braun Strowman, and Bobby. What are you doing with your life, Rude?
And this built throughout the show. This was kind of entertaining to me. It was Kevin Owens going around and lobbying to both Bobby Roode and Finn Balor to try and get them to 3-way team up on Braun Strowman, ultimately leading to a spot where the 3 of them were together right before the match, and Braun just come out, "You know what would be fun? Why don't the 3 of you just team up on me?" And, roar, and he stomps off. Just classic Braun Strowman. You love this kind of stuff. And yeah, the match, they did kind of team up on him.
It was
for a bit.
And it was actually an entertaining match, if ultimately kind of meaningless. It was a way to establish that Braun Strowman, who is not winning Money in the Bank, is this dominant monster who can take out 3 of your biggest guys pretty handily, even after being frog splashed through the announce table, which was an awesome spot.
Yeah, it was.
Kevin Owens on top of the ladder, which I thought was actually, by the way, after last week where he didn't like to climb the ladder to frog splash Finn Balor, now he can get on the top of the ladder and frog splash onto an announce table.
What do you mean? He overcame his fears. He went to therapy this week.
But my point is that's a very face thing to do. And I was like, that's for a shitheel coward, that's kind of a badass thing to do.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought... nitpicking. It was cool as hell. I'm not mad at it.
Want to work?
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, I mean, there is a question of if we're making Braun Strowman look too strong at this point. He's taking out 3 of your biggest faces, or 3 of your biggest wrestlers, I should say. But that is part of having him be that monster. So it will be interesting to see how now that they've established that, how they write that story on Sunday. With the other guys from SmackDown as well. So, and obviously that was something that they had to deal with the Elimination Chamber earlier, was Braun took everyone's finisher and still was there.
Yep.
Until, of course, Roman Reigns.
Of course.
But, naturally.
Until he got a spear.
A couple spears, and that'll do it. But, so those were all very entertaining, but ultimately, not much we can really take from that to interpret on Sunday. It was... I think both of these shows were treading water a little bit. Like they didn't have much more to build, with a couple of notable exceptions.
Well, I mean, look, it's been over a month since Backlash, hadn't it? We've had a marathon run to get to Money in the Bank. After being so just overwhelmed between WrestleMania, Greatest Royal Rumble, Backlash, all within 3 or 4 weeks of each other. Just we had a chance to take that exhale, but it's like it's been too long now. And finally we're here. So, yeah, I think they did tread water this week. They had built everything they needed to build, and finally we're here.
Well, it's funny because, a couple other angles a couple other feuds that I thought didn't really go anywhere new, but just added a little extra stink to them. Jinder and Roman, and then Seth and Elias. Both of these were pretty much ready to go.
Yeah.
And all it was Jinder and Roman supposedly having a match, and ended up being Sunil Singh. Roman gets to the ring. He's like, cool, I'm going to beat up Jinder Mahal. And Jinder goes, actually, no, you're fighting my little buddy here.
After teasing him that it might have been the great Khali coming out.
Okay. Right. Then, of course, once Sunil gets thrown to the wolves and murdered by Roman Reigns, who, by the way, is now sitting here on top of my mic stand, proudly
in his
proclaiming
Superman pose.
Yes, of course, man, naturally. I have to proclaim my Roman Reigns love for the entire world. So here's the thing: is that now Jinder basically uses the Jinder finish in this match in reverse, where Sunil Singh is working the match, Roman beats him, and Jinder then comes in and beats the crap out of Roman. We get a little more heat. He chases off the heels. Okay, cool. Nothing really new here. Just builds a little bit more for the match. Seth and Elias also the same way. Elias out in the ring singing a song about how much Seth sucks.
And he got a brand new guitar with from the hip hop artist John Mayer. Did you know he was a hip hop artist?
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah, great.
Good one, Coach. You got me. I like how they called back to that on SmackDown because it's just such a terrible line. But so then Seth comes out and chases Elias off, grabs his nice new prize guitar and stomps it. Yep. Long story short, that was it. Like I just literally this whole 20-minute segment, I just summed it up in half a sentence. Yep. And really all it does is, okay, they're having a feud. They're mad at each other. Great. Thanks for reminding us. Moving on. This was saved by the fact that Elias is great on the mic. Seth is great on the mic. The plot was kind of non-existent.
Doesn't matter.
The entertainment of these performers was what made this work. I can't say the same about the Roman and Jinder thing, although that could have been worse. Jinder's working a very old school heel style now, and not the foreigner heel, thank God.
Yep.
And it does kind of work for me, even though it's not terribly exciting. It's fine. It's not as bad as it could be. But I thought the value of the guitar to Elias was sold very well by Elias. I think Elias is working really well as a heel. So I'm excited for that match. I'm just not over the moon about it because it just hasn't been built that well.
I am. I'm eating up Seth versus Elias. I like this feud. I think these two guys work well together. I'm anxious to see them have a full, clean match that doesn't involve some kind of interference or somebody getting hit with a guitar. I'm looking forward to seeing that on Money in the Bank.
I have a feeling a guitar will get broken at Money in the Bank. That's just a hunch I have. So now we did have a feud. We were asked, I think, last week by one of our listeners if there was any saving the Nia and Ronda feud, to which we both said very succinctly, no. However, I will say this. There was a Nia and Ronda segment this week where they faced off in the ring, and they were just going to sit there and talk to each other and whatnot. And I liked this a lot. First of all, because it clarified Nia's character. It showed that she's not this bully heel, which they kind of drove right into and made no sense. It gave her character a sense of logic and purpose. It didn't help Ronda a whole lot because she still is just so stilted out there and feels very unnatural and uncomfortable and doesn't really know her levels, if you know what I mean. Yeah. But what I liked about it is it did, as you would expect, and then physicality, which we haven't seen between them yet. And it needed this physicality because as soon as it got physical, I sat upright, my eyes got wide, and I went, ooh, this is kind of cool. Ronda's like a little pit bull, and Nia is this, big person. And having Ronda just clinging on to her for this part where they started getting physical with each other, like trying to put the armbar on her, it looked really cool and it felt exciting. And it made me kind of go, okay, this could be exciting once we see some physicality between these two. Yeah. And I see you over there just grimacing. You don't like anything about this feud. I still have
I don't.
Some hope
I have some hope for Ronda one day down the road paired with the right person. I have zero hope for this feud whatsoever.
Well, let me put it this way. I would much rather have this feud with the way that they finished it before the show. Like where I'm at with that, with Ronda and Nia, I'm way better with that than I am with arguably the worst feud of 2018 so far, Bobby Lashley versus Sami Zayn. And I say so far of 2018 with the hope that there is nothing that even comes close to competing with it, because this is just god awful.
Yeah,
it's unwatchable. If I didn't have to watch it for this show, I wouldn't.
You'd fast forward through it.
I would. And the crowd that was sitting there obviously wanted to as well. They were dying. Everyone was dying here. The Sammy coming out and basically doubling down on last week when he asked if Lashley had even been in the military, and we had a lot of people get upset about that. I think it was inappropriate. And this week he said, well, I'm going to double down on it, and you prove that you're in the military by running through this little obstacle course I've set up around the ring. There was some funny moments to this. Sammy was working his ass off to make it work. And I have to say, I did laugh out loud at the end when Lashley's running through the course, looking like a monster, by the way. He did very impressively run this course.
30 seconds, he was done with it.
He was showing off through it too. And then at the end, he goes to go through to climb the rope. He comes down off the rope, and Sam just comes through and just kicks him and beats him up and beats him down. And my favorite part of it was he runs through and Haluva kicks him. And then as he's running back, he grabs a little rope and does a little swing back on the rope and is prancing around. I laughed out loud at that. That entertained me. 30 seconds of the last weeks and weeks of this feud, and I had a chuckle. That's the best I can say for this.
I have nothing really to say about this one. And I think I echo the majority of the WWE universe. If you go back and watch, I'll challenge you listeners, go back and look at the footage of this on Hulu or something like that, or online, and you can look into the audience, into the WWE universe.
Oof.
Nobody is cheering. Nobody is standing. Nobody gives a shit. I give all the credit in the world to somebody like Sami Zayn for trying to get something this bad over with the crowd, or at least get some boos out of it. They just weren't reacting at all. It's the worst possible kind of no reaction that you could get.
Exactly. That's the worst thing you can get is no reaction.
Yeah.
And he got a couple of boos, a couple of USA chants, which is
half-hearted at best.
And they kind of drove into this whole like Canada thing that's going on right now with him saying he's from Canada, and some people have been like, that's bad, right? Yeah, screw Canada. USA. And then they did stand up when Lashley came out and was ready to run the course. They did stand up for that, but that's it. This is dead in the water. I think we will all be happier and better off when this ends on Sunday.
Yep. Well, hey, we did have some action in the tag division, but unfortunately, if you watch the Hulu edition, you saw Lashley and Sami Zayn and Nia Ronda. You did not get to see two things that were arguably better.
I don't know about arguably better. The tag division is pretty sad on Raw right now.
Sure.
You had the tag team that I'm calling.
I would watch that with my eyes taped open before I wated Bobby Lashley run another obstacle course.
Touche. I would definitely rather watch the team that I'm now calling Ziggy Mac, Ziggler and McIntyre beating the crap out of Breezango. By the way, Tyler Breeze just looked like he got murdered. He can sell like a son of a bitch. And then they beat them down and said, we're going to beat up everybody else. Basically, we've got nothing going on in the tag division right now until they pull the trigger on Ziggler and McIntyre, because they've made the rest of the division look so bad that only a team like that can really do anything interesting.
Hang on, I take exception to that, because the B team are currently going to be going up against the Deleters of Worlds for the tag team championship.
Oh yes, how scintillating!
Yeah, what? It's Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel.
I know you love those guys,
legacy of wrestling.
Yeah, okay, that's great. The only thing, brother versus brother, Bray versus Bo, I guess, is something. But they said, B team came out, they beat Slater and Rhino, and then the Deleters of Worlds showed up on the Titantron and talked smack, and then they showed up on the stage and said they were going to eat them and delete them.
Ew.
Okay. But it wasn't really made clear if that was going to go down at Money in the Bank or sometime in the future, because nobody cares. Nobody cares.
I do.
This is a terrible tag team championship reign right now. Then they can't even get on the Hulu edition. It's buried on the regular TV show. We don't even know if we're having a match.
Look what it's buried under. It's like it's removed from the Hulu edition to show you stuff like Sami Zayn and Bobby Lashley.
Yeah, also buried, Ruby Riott beat Bayley pretty handily.
I would have loved to have seen that.
And then drew all over her body in Sharpie. Because it was a little botchy at some points, but also, Ruby Riott is, we've said for a long time, wildly talented. So's Bayley for that matter. She's just getting a bad break, but Ruby, I think, could go a long way. If they ever just decide to give her a push. Speaking of pushes, No Way Jose has already been relegated to Adam Roseland. He's now beating Kurt Hawkins.
Adding another notch to his loss column.
0 and 201.
Wow.
At some point, we're gonna have to break the streak, and it's gonna be fun to see what happens there.
Well, guys, that's everything that went down on Monday Night Raw. Let's continue this drive towards Money in the Bank and head over and talk about SmackDown Live.
Well, SmackDown is continuing its pattern of giving us what could be considered dream matches as just throwaway matches on SmackDown.
The whole opening segment video package of this show where they were showing the card for the night, I was just like, oh my,
what?
Is this a pay-per-view?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh my God.
Whether it's Shinsuke Nakamura versus Jeff Hardy, Daniel Bryan versus Shelton Benjamin, Rusev versus Samoa Joe. These are all matches that could be a big match on a pay-per-view if they built it up right. These could be huge matches. This is also the brand that gave us Cena and Nakamura and Orton and Nakamura on TV. What? And here's the thing is it wasn't like these matches were fine. They were good. I was entertained. I liked SmackDown this week because all the matches would come on. I'd be like, ooh, yeah, I want to see that. But these were matches that were essentially just heaters for Money in the Bank. They didn't have any
for other matches.
Yeah. And so they didn't. Even the wrestlers didn't really go all in on them. Like they did it. They did the work, but it wasn't like
Shinsuke Jeff Hardy was pretty nuts. That was a pretty good match.
And I'd say Daniel Bryan versus Shelton Benjamin was nice and technical, but it wasn't like. For instance,
no stakes.
It wasn't like, for instance, Pete Dunne versus Kyle O'Reilly over in NXT, which we'll talk about.
Technical masterclass.
Which was just Jesus Christ. And they don't let them go that hard on the main roster because they have a tougher schedule. I get that. But that's what I'm saying is why have these matches in such a prominent position when you're not going to do anything with them other than, because some of these, didn't really even build the matches they were trying to build for. Daniel Bryan, Shelton Benjamin had like nothing to do with Big Cass. Big Cass had a whole separate promo that he did. Another, Big Angry Orange promo where he talked about how tall he was and how short Daniel Bryan was.
That was actually a pretty good promo.
From a performance standpoint, yes. From a content standpoint, it was garbage.
I thought it was hilarious. I love the whole must be 7 feet tall to ride thing. I thought that was funny.
Well, to me, it made me roll my. I still have a headache from rolling my eyes.
Of course.
That one.
Mine just came back around from rolling them over. But I mean, it's fun. I fully expected that to be a setup for Big Cass to come out and kick him in the face or something at the end of the match. It's just become repetitive. But this could have been like its own little house show / pay-per-view card. These matches are fantastic.
They should have been, but they were all kind of they were fine, but they were just kind of average.
Yeah.
But we did have a massive 5-on-5 women's tag match to close the show.
They built this throughout the whole show, too.
They did.
That was impressive.
It started with that really awkward, everyone in the ring segment, and with Lana without her accent. I think DOA, Lana's
and
accent.
Happy Lana Day T-shirt on.
They've been promoting that for a couple of weeks now, but the lack of accent so suddenly without any explanation, I'm just okay.
No more. They're dropping the ravishing gimmick.
The most interesting thing about her, by the way, it's gone. I don't necessarily agree with that creatively, but whatever.
Yeah.
They all in the ring getting prepped for Money in the Bank. Everyone taking their turn to say why they're going to win. Becky Lynch, the only person with any fire in this segment, really. And then basically everyone ended up showing up and talking smack, and everyone who wasn't in the Money in the Bank match were all the heels, and they talked smack to everyone who was in the Money in the Bank match.
And the Iconics came out and stole the whole show.
Of course.
Man, doing the dance move, making fun of the dance off, and they start dancing on the ramp. Hilarious. I love this. You know what? I want to say something real quick as a quick aside. I didn't have a lot of hope for Peyton Royce and Billie Kay when they were coming up to the main roster.
Really?
I knew they were fun in the ring. I did not know that the pair of them together could, because in NXT, they don't give them this kind of time on the mic to do these sort of like interlude segments in between. I don't think we had ever seen this to this caliber, but when they come out and they do these things they've been doing the last few weeks, man, it is good.
Yeah, you can tell that they've
really
known each other
good.
for a long, long time.
Yes.
They're very much on the same page, and they're fantastic. But this ended up being Paige ended up putting this together, as you said, throughout the entire show. Ended up Carmella and Asuka and their feud got wrapped up in this too. So we had all the women who were in the Money in the Bank match, all the other women on the roster, and Carmella and Asuka all in the ring together at the same time.
Well, they've never done that before.
But this time I thought it was a nice contrast to the kind of piecemeal way that they were doing the men's Money in the Bank,
Yeah.
and the kind of the interesting juxtaposition of Rusev and Samoa Joe in their match with The Miz as the special guest referee, and then the New Day kind of getting involved at the end by pulling a prank on The Miz. So you had one where it was all these disparate elements bouncing off each other, and one where it was just this big cluster and everyone, was in there fighting. And it was, for a 10-minute match, like a minute a person, it was a fine match.
Yeah.
It was pretty entertaining, actually.
Yeah.
So
Charlotte with the big moonsault off the top ropes into
Naturally.
the crowd. Yeah.
everyone gets their spots.
Yep.
Asuka looking like a wild animal at the end of this.
They all surround her.
So the reason that Asuka is just so exciting is how snappy she is. Like, she can be on the ground and all of a sudden her body just whips around and you're in a choke hold. She's so very, very, like the snap, like the pop of her, like
Right.
just crisp.
Right.
It's awesome and it's terrifying. And I don't see a lot of other people have that, the intensity to her movements. So I thought that was a great way to finish it with the Asuka lock. Shinsuke Jeff Hardy we did bring up was another match that was on the show. And essentially, we were asking where Jeff Hardy was last week. Well, we found where he was. He was hiding out somewhere with his U.S. title, and he came back this week to have a decent match against Shinsuke Nakamura that ended with yet another Kinshasa.
Yeah.
And I'm officially over Nakamura punching dudes in the dick. Like, I still crack up every time he does it because he does it with just such hatred.
Well,
Such
my inner
hatred.
12-year-old makes me giggle every single time he does it.
It's like an evil Shoryuken.
Yeah.
Like he comes up behind them and just
Oh, you can.
It's just so vicious. But at the same time, I'm like, can this is Shinsuke Nakamura? Can you please have him doing something else besides dick punches? Come on.
Next up, taint punches.
Like it's so. I mean, I hate to be Debbie Downer, but it is just so classic WWE
Yeah.
to take someone with that much talent and charisma and reduce them to a crotch shot. Like it's just so basic.
We'll resume our regularly scheduled AJ Styles program this Sunday. So I hope
Is it
there's-
just me, or is this just the whole thing just kind of cooled off a lot? Like I liked it last week a little bit more, but it feels like the energy's winding down.
I think until the bell rings on Sunday and it gets fired back up again and those two 5-star wrestlers just get a hold of each other again, yes, the time in between sucks, but I think it's just as soon as they start getting hands on each other again, I'm all in on this feud.
Yeah, I'm officially putting it in that I'm worried.
Uh-oh.
I'm officially worried. I think it might be time to pull the plug on this.
Well, we mentioned Daniel Bryan and Shelton Benjamin earlier. Again, we said that, what's the point of it with other than to show off these two technical wrestlers with each other.
And they had a couple of good technical moves.
Yeah.
I like the interchange for the finish. Good technical wrestling.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're going to do with Shelton after this, though. Like, what's happening with Shelton? Is he just now basically Ty Dillinger, only better in the ring?
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know.
Good point.
But back to Rusev and Samoa Joe. Boy, you talk about two dudes that just look scary.
Yeah.
And especially, by the way, Samoa Joe with the new haircut.
Oh,
looks
yeah.
even more intimidating.
Yep.
If that were actually possible. I thought this was a great way to make him look like a killer, even though he lost. Rusev did pick up the win because of some Miz interference, Miz being the ref.
And then Miz does a skull-crushing finale to Samoa Joe there at the end, pulls a ladder out, climbs up, grabs the briefcase, does a big taunt, runs around with the briefcase, brings it down to the broadcast table, opens it up, and it's full of pancakes.
And for some reason, New Day was in the back. For some reason, Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods were inside the same shirt. But whatever, it's New Day. We've come to expect that.
And Big E had a big bowl of empty batter and a big spatula.
Yes.
So
Where do you think those pancakes came from, Nick?
not out of his singlet that time, apparently.
How do you know?
I don't know that.
How
But
do you
maybe
think-
he had just gotten done
They
making
had to
them.
get from that bowl to the briefcase somehow, and there's only one place to put them. Down the singlet. You know what I'm talking about. But this was great because it was a another way to show that these guys hate each other and to give Rusev a win. He worked face for the first time in a long time. They gave him a win, and it was a nice way to show them.
Samoa Joe,
it was
too.
entertaining. You don't have anything else to build. These guys are all going to be in a ladder match. Whoop-de-doo. They don't like each other. Whoop-de-doo. This was just a fun little way to have them all ricochet off of each other without really having to build anything else. It was entertaining. It was fun. It gave Rusev a nice look because he won. And that was that. That was that.
Yeah.
That was what it was for.
Well, hey, as it is every time we lead up to a pay-per-view, we now have to head over and do our pick'ems for this Money in the Bank.
Here we go. Okay, here we go.
This is going to be a fun card to pick in Fantasy Book here. So we're going to start things off with probably what is going to be the pre-show match with the B team versus the Deleters of Worlds.
Well, we're speculating that this is even happening. This might not even happen.
Oh, they haven't even officially booked this yet, right?
No, this is. I have got a question mark next to this. We don't know this is officially happening, but just in case it does, I want to get this on the books as to who's saying who is going to win this.
B team versus Deleters of Worlds. I'll let you go first. Who do you got?
Deleters of Worlds.
Okay, so you think they're going to retain. Again, this is one of those coin flip kind of matches where it just doesn't really matter. So I'm going to mark out for my boys Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel and put some gold around their waist.
Cool.
Pick the B team.
And I am already in the lead. Fantastic. Moving on, we've got to talk about Daniel Bryan versus Big Cass.
Daniel Bryan got the last one, so I think this Big Cass gets this one.
Really?
To continue this feud. Yeah, I think they're just getting warmed up on this. I think this goes all the way to kind of a culmination at SummerSlam in the next couple of months.
Ooh, you think this is going to run to SummerSlam?
Because what else is he going to do?
Oh, no.
Yeah, who else is Big Cass going to work with?
Well, we have said that Daniel Bryan is basically going to be not working anything big until he signs a new contract, and his contract is up in September. So you could be right. He could be just stuck in this kind of crappy feud until then. But dear God, I hope he's not. I am going to say D-Bry is picking this one up just to move on, find something else. Even if it's a feud with Shelton Benjamin, I don't care. Something.
Yeah.
Anything.
Next up, we have the SmackDown Live Tag Team Championships with the Bludgeon Brothers versus the other Good Brothers.
Yes, the
other
Good
brothers.
Bros.
The
Yes.
Good Brothers.
Who are having
Bad Brothers versus the Good Brothers.
The hilarious Twitter war right now where Harper asked if Carl Anderson's hot Asian wife was going to be at the pay-per-view. To which Carl Anderson responded, she's not. She's going to be home. But we're wondering, are you the Bludgeon Brothers or are you still Bray's bitches?
Ooh.
So it's been fun.
Who you got here?
Bludgeon Brothers.
I already know you got Bludgeon Brothers.
Come on, I don't see this. There's no way that this is. They've already said this is a pre-show match. They are not having this go down on the pre-show.
Yeah, I can't lose this one. This is going to be Bludgeon Brothers.
Yeah,
as much as I want Anderson and Gallows to have some gold, it's just not going to happen here yet.
You spent that on the B team, brother.
Yeah.
Bobby Lashley, Sami Zayn.
Who gives a shit?
Just pick one. Just pick one.
Bobby Lashley.
All right. Good God. Because, God, if Sami Zayn wins, this has to continue.
Yeah.
Oh.
Bobby Lashley needs to overcome the big, mean, bad Sami Zayn, and it's going to be a parade moment for Bobby Lashley.
Please, Vince, stop touching us inappropriately.
Yes.
This is just, I'm going to have scars from this for years.
Roman Reigns versus Jinder Mahal. Who you got here?
I'm so bored with Roman Reigns. Oh, sorry, Roman. I'm a little buddy up here. Didn't mean to insult you. This one I've got. Oh, man, this is a tough. This is a tough one.
It is.
I could see Jinder pulling this off. You know what? He came through for me at WrestleMania. I'm going with Jinder again.
Holy smokes!
I'm going with Jinder again. I think this feud will continue. I think it will continue to build. I think the other Singh brother might come back or something, and some sort of kerfufflery will happen, and Jinder will pull this off, and this feud will continue. I think Roman's not taking it seriously enough yet.
Roman Reigns.
No, yeah, smart man probably. Seth Rollins.
I need to use my stretch bet.
Yeah, right.
On a show that we don't even know if it's booked or not.
Seth Rollins versus Elias for the Intercontinental Championship, sir.
I like this feud. I like where it's going. I think it's got some more legs, but I think it's too soon. As hot as Seth Rollins is right now, there's no way they're taking that belt off of him. Rollins retains.
I think we could get surprised here. I think they could take it off him and have this go back and forth and Seth chasing all summer, but
I could see that, yeah.
I'm agreeing with you. This title is not changing hands. Yeah, we've got a couple of the titles I think will change hands. This is not the one.
This needs to go to like one more step, one more level to get really intense. Right now, it's just a little too goofy.
Yep.
Carmella versus Asuka for the SmackDown Live Women's Championship. Do you see Carmella retaining against
100% Carmella retaining, and I'm actually even going to go out on a limb. I'm gonna shoot the moon here.
Okay.
Not only does she retain, but the chinless wizard himself, Ellsworth, shows back up to help her retain.
What? Where are you getting that from?
Yep.
Oh goodness. Okay. Yeah, okay. I'll go against you on that. He is not going to show up.
Okay.
I'll take that prop bet. And I actually think they might pull the trigger here and put this belt on Asuka. So
wow.
I've already thrown my card into disarray, so I'm going to call Asuka for the moonshot here.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, I just won. All right, cool.
Well, you won, but from the first pick. Let's
be
clear.
That's true.
If I'm going to screw it up, I'm going to go down swinging. Oh, all right. Nia Jax versus Ronda Rousey in a who gives a shit match. Who do you got?
I actually do give a shit here. This is a tough one because I could see them being insane and putting the belt on Rousey. I have been saying for the last few weeks that I have this conspiracy theory that Natalya will win Money in the Bank, and then when Rousey wins this match, she'll be champion for a hot second, and then Natalya will take it off her. That's my conspiracy theory. And I just don't know if I want to blow my picks on the conspiracy theory. I've already done the Ellsworth. I'm going to say that Rousey... yeah, I'm going to say Rousey wins.
Yep. I think Ronda Rousey is taking this championship belt already.
Yeah.
I
don't see her being handed her first loss in her first singles match. I can't see it.
Her first singles match, they put the belt on her. And my main concern of that is what does it do to the morale of all the ladies backstage?
But this is what I'm saying. This is why I'm like, they'll only put the belt on her if it's doesn't stay on her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is why I had that like, oh, maybe Natalya will win. I'll tell you right now, if Natalya wins the Women's Money in the Bank match, if that happens before the Nia and Rousey match, if Natalya wins, remember this moment. It's going down. That's what's going to happen.
No, I don't think it is because she won on Tuesday. So,
or there's going to be some sort of something where Nia gets herself disqualified or something. The title doesn't change hands. You know what I mean? Or like okay, here's a little something.
So you're saying Ronda doesn't lose.
Ronda does not lose. Ronda could. I'm trying to think of ways out of this. You know what I mean? Like how do you have Ronda go over but not win the belt? Ronda's going to win but not get the belt, kind of thing. And I've been thinking about the fact that they keep bringing up all the rules that are different between UFC and WWE. What if Ronda does a move that's, quote, illegal in the WWE and gets disqualified or something like that?
That's interesting.
You know what I mean?
That's a stretch, though. It's a bit of a stretch for the WWE universe to get around that.
I don't know. I just can't see her walking out of here. I can't see her walking out of Money in the Bank with the belt.
Me either.
Stone cold. You know what I mean?
It's so hard to pick this, but I can't see them handing her a loss. It's almost, she's got to have a clean win.
Let's do this. I'm going to say Rousey goes over, but does not leave Money in the Bank with the belt.
Okay. So you want that to be your win-loss if she only wins by DQ or some other non-belt gathering thing?
Somehow she goes over but doesn't get the belt. Whether it's winning and Natalya takes it off of her, or she gets just DQ'd or something, or Nia DQs herself, something like that.
I think Vince and Stephanie and even Hunter to an extent are so just in love with everything about Ronda Rousey, the way that they have portrayed her since the Royal Rumble. I think they're just chomping at the bit to put this belt on her.
Okay, so you're saying she walks out with it.
Sacrifice everybody. I say that she's walking out with the title.
Cool. Moving on, AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura, WWE Championship Last Man Standing match. What do you got, buddy?
The last one ended in the double count out, right?
2.
Yeah.
3. I can't do it anymore.
No, please don't do it anymore.
Yeah, the last one was double count out, which is the whole point that we had of this, was that they were, but we've had last man standing matches and before with both people down. This is why I was like, why are we having this? But they made it clear this time that there will be a winner. So cool. Who's going to be the winner, Nick?
AJ Styles.
Okay. Really?
Yep. Yep. I think so.
I think if they're smart, if they're, after all this time, they got to give it to Shinsuke, because if they don't here, he's ruined.
I'm picking Nakamura.
Are you?
I'm changing.
Did I just convince you?
No, it wasn't that you convinced me. It was more of a, you're right. You're making the right choice because of the way that they've booked this so far. AJ has had it forever. This feud, like I've been saying this whole year, this feud's going to go on forever. And in order for it to go on, they need to put the belt on Nakamura and give AJ a reason to fight back as a face. I think you're right.
Or have Nakamura take the belt and be a heel champ against some other faces that come up against him. Whatever it is.
But AJ's going to have that retaliatory just redemption tour of trying to get it back.
Yeah.
We'll have it again at SummerSlam.
Whereas if AJ keeps it and the feud ends, Nakamura he's knocked down. He's knocked down so many pegs by this, by losing this, especially with how in AJ's head he's been.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
If AJ wins, it blows off. If Nakamura wins, it just fuels the fire even more. So that's why I want to pick Nak.
That throws me is that he just beat Jeff Hardy. And that's, you don't usually stand tall before you go and win at a pay-per-view. But we've been picking Nakamura all damn year, dude. He's got to come through for us at some point.
Yeah, I think it's time.
Right? Women's Money in the Bank match. Here we go, man. The big ladder matches, the crazy ones. Who is winning the women's Money in the Bank?
I called it a week or two ago. I think Lana is going to win this. Mm-hmm. I've seen a big push from WWE for her.
Sir.
We've got her in a Happy Lana Day shirt. She's dropping the accent. They are reforming her character. I think Vince is in love with the blonde the tall blondes. That's just Vince's thing.
Well, could he buy her a better spray tan then?
Yeah, that's true. But I think Lana, and this could actually work out well, because you're going to have Rusev Day walking around as a faction with a Money in the Bank briefcase.
Yep.
Aiden English is still in their corner. It didn't end up breaking up like we thought they were going to do. So I disagree with you. I don't think Natty is walking out with this because of the things that happened on Tuesday. I think, and I've stuck with this all along, Lana is going to win the women's Money in the Bank match and end up carrying that on, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
I think that you have a point there, and I definitely think I would like to see Rusev Day walking around with this and possibly reigniting the interior feud of the Rusev Day faction, because Lana will now have a lot more power in the faction by having the briefcase. I can't see her ultimately ever being the champ, which is the weird thing. You know what I mean? I do agree
that's exactly why I pick her.
Vince left. Okay.
For the same reasons we picked Carmella, Carmella ended up winning it last year.
Yeah. I could see Alexa getting the briefcase. She would do really well with the briefcase. I could even to some extent see Ember getting it, but usually she's too face.
Too face too soon.
She could win it on her own as a face. That's not where you give someone a briefcase.
Yeah. I do like the Alexa one though. That was I'll say that was my second one. Kind of going where you were going with the Nia and Rousey thing. I could totally see Alexa winning the briefcase, coming into that match to congratulate and kind of reconcile her relationship with Nia, only to turn on her, hit her with the case, cash it in, and take the belt back.
Yeah, Alexa could also work in that as far as a cash in. Natalya, I think they've built more as being the friend.
She's just got not good. She's not
there.
there.
I am picking Natalya here, but I'm just saying that I could see I could see Alexa, because they do love Alexa, and she's got nothing she's doing right now. Yeah. So that would give her something to do. So I'm going to pick Natalya. Might not be the best choice, but I'm sticking with my conspiracy. I'm sticking with it. Men's Money in the Bank match. Men's Money in the Bank. Who do you have? Braun Strowman, Bobby Roode, Kevin Owens, Finn Balor, Rusev, Samoa Joe, Miz, and one of the members of New Day, Big E.
It's going to be Big E.
It's going to be Big E.
We know that by
agree.
now. There was a point where I thought it might be Xavier Woods.
It should be Kofi.
I thought it should be Xavier. He's gotten no shine off this in this relationship, other than Francesca.
He's gotten to win a couple of matches en route to where they're at right now. And within the last month. Kofi ain't done nothing for a long time. And as far as in kayfabe, as we've said on the show already, these guys always say they want Kofi to win the big one. They always are saying, we love Kofi. He's our mentor. In kayfabe even.
Yeah.
So in kayfabe, it should be Kofi. They should be like, man, this is you, Kofi. Go get that briefcase. Bring that title home to New Day. But it's going to be Big E, because that's who Vince loves the most.
Right. Well, I went first on the women's, so I'll let you go first on the men's. Who do you got?
Damn, I wasn't ready. This is a tough one for me. I want to say Kevin Owens. I want to say Kevin Owens because he would be such a good Mr. Money in the Bank. He's such a good Mr. Money in the Bank. But I don't know if he needs it. And the same with Miz. And those would be the two like most likely ones for me. Strowman should not have it. Rude is too much of a face to get it, and it would be so vanilla if he got it.
Yeah.
Unless you turn him heel. Finn Balor, same thing. It'd be way too vanilla. He's way too face. Rusev, I could see getting it. If Lana doesn't get it, I could see Rusev getting it. But they've shown that they're not really behind Rusev, that they don't really want to push him. So it would come as a shock, a very pleasant shock, a very nice surprise if they went with Rusev. But I can't really see it. Joe is a monster. He's kind of like in the Braun Strowman camp where he's a badass. He can go for the championship whenever he wants. And Big E, or whatever New Day member it is, I could see that happening with him and then having it end up breaking up the New Day, because I think New Day is going to break up within the next year.
Okay.
That's my guess. So between Kevin Owens, Miz, and New Day member / Big E, I'm going to go Kevin Owens.
Okay.
Because I don't know. I'm going to hate myself later for this. Kevin Owens.
For me, this is one of the whole reasons that the Miz made the change over to SmackDown Live, in my opinion, was to put him on the same brand, give him a break from that Intercontinental title reign and let Seth have it, and allow him to be on the same brand with the WWE Championship belt that he did once hold. He is a former Money in the Bank winner, and I think that this all was strategic to get Miz over on SmackDown Live, to get him the briefcase, to be running around, to go after and chase, and be the little chihuahua nipping at either AJ's or Shinsuke's heels. All of that sounds fantastic to me, and I can't wait to spend the second half of 2018 with that. I don't think he's a quick cash-in, and I think he just milks it for all it's worth, leading to one of the major 4 pay-per-views where he does cash it in. I think The Miz is walking out of here. It's almost like all of the guys, you just spent some time rattling them off. I won't regurgitate any of that. Of all of the guys here, the one that just jumps out at me as the perfect one is Miz.
And you make a really good point. I think that Miz would be a fantastic Mr. Money in the Bank again.
Yeah, again.
Especially with the kind of work he's been doing. The
other thing is, I think he's earned it. I think they're giving him a shot. Yeah. He did so well with the Intercontinental title for so long.
Yes.
And he has been doing such great work for the last 2 or 3 years. Absolutely. Yeah. Give that guy his shot.
I think it's a really strong argument for Miz. That being said, I'm going to change my pick. Not to Miz, though, because I don't want to pick the same thing as you, because that would be unfair after the really nice argument you made about that. But I'm actually going to change it to Big E. And the reason is because as I look at my picks, the briefcases aren't going to the same brand. They're splitting the brands.
Correct.
One is going to be Raw. One is going to be SmackDown.
Correct.
And I had Natalya on Raw, so to keep it consistent, I got to pick a SmackDown person. You pick Miz. I'm going to pick Big E.
Okay.
I'm going way out on a limb with that, but I'm picking Big E.
Well, as a little prop bet here, is there any way that both briefcases go to the same show?
I say no.
No?
I say no.
Yeah, well, we can't do a prop bet then, because I say no too. I thought you might jump in there and say,
Hell no.
I think that would be an interesting prospect. But
unless one of them gets cashed in that night. So that
I think it would be hilarious if Rusev and Lana got both of them and they just really made a thing about that. But it's too far. It's too much.
That'd be too much.
Yeah.
That'd be way too much. That being said, there is too much to talk about over on in the rest of the world. And there's so much else going on, whether it's NXT or 205 or New Japan. Or we got to talk about a ton of stuff. But to do that, we got to go talk about the wide world of wrestling.
Kicking things off in NXT as we do. We opened the show. There was a lot of video packages in this show, by the way.
Yeah, this was an NXT build show for their pay-per-view. There almost nothing of importance happened on this show. A couple of matches got made.
I don't know about that. I'm not going to go that far.
It's true. There was a really badass match between Kyle O'Reilly and Pete Dunne. There was a so-so match between EC3 and Cassius Ohno. And then you had a squash between Bianca Belair and Aaliyah. And then you had a match between Bianca and Team Kick Dakota Kai get set up for next week. And then there was a squash match between the Wall Waiters and a couple of jobbers.
War Machine.
Wall Waiters. And they
called out the Mighty, the TM61 Mighty. I don't know what to call them anymore. Like, who knows what the Mighty is?
They're called the Mighty. The Mighty don't kneel. That was their indie name. Okay. They're called the Mighty now. Okay. Get over it. Yeah. But yeah, the rest of the show is just promos for Takeover and
some badass video packages.
Really good.
That one with
packages.
Ciampa and Gargano. I mean, they just keep. So here's the thing. I made the comment while we were watching this.
Yeah.
That if you have not been watching, listeners, if you've not been watching NXT because you feel like you might be behind on the stories, there was a video package in this that was about, I think, 5 to 8 minutes long. That was a total catch up of like the last 3-4 months of NXT and everything you needed to know to go into Saturday. All of the feuds, they laid them all out for you, deleting to all of the matches.
The Ciampa Gargano one was a masterpiece. The Baszler and Nikki Cross one was really entertaining as well. They did a good job of showing this long form storytelling that they've been doing with that, as far as Shayna getting into other people's heads and then Nikki getting into hers.
Yep,
they did a great job with that. The only one that they didn't really have one for Ricochet and Velveteen Dream, which I was sad about. They had a little bit of physicality at the end of the show between Aleister Black and Lars Sullivan, where
a little bit. He gave him the freak accident 3 times,
and then he laid him out on the announce table and posed over him,
as if it were some kind of pulpit, and he was, oh god,
yeah. Lars Sullivan definitely went into the show standing,
marking the hell out.
Standing is about as tall as you can stand. He just destroyed Aleister Black. But it was I call it a little bit of physicality because he destroyed him. It was over very quickly. Yes. But that being said, most of the show was these promos, but we have to call out the fact that the Kyle O'Reilly Pete Dunne match was a freaking barn burner.
Yes. And I think when they first rang the bell and they were dancing around each other, I remember making the comment, "This is going to be a technical masterpiece,"
and it was.
Holy smokes, it was. If you watch any match this week that you haven't seen yet, go watch Pete Dunne versus Kyle O'Reilly on NXT.
I love it when professional wrestling matches make me almost think they could be real combat.
Yes.
And this felt like that. Yep. This felt like two dudes who could actually be fighting.
It felt like a UFC match at certain
points. Yeah.
They were both doing this jiu-jitsu shit to each other. Oh, man. It's so good.
It was, I don't know how they're going to top it on Saturday, but it makes me excited for it.
Speaking of Saturday, we have NXT Takeover Chicago 2.
You got this, buddy.
We are 1 year removed from the anniversary of the DIY breakup. And it is still going as we called it all year last year. Oh man. But the big news,
Gargano is going to the dark side, dude. He's
I don't know yet. I don't know.
He's so angry. He's so fired up.
The big news, breaking news as of today, unfortunately, Mauro Ranallo double booked to call, I can't remember who the competitors were, a match on Showtime Boxing on Saturday night. So he will not be calling the match on at NXT TakeOver Chicago.
Yep.
So we will have Percy, Nigel,
and Vic Joseph.
And Vic Joseph from 205 Live, who I actually really enjoy.
Yeah, no, he's a very good guy.
Yes.
I mean, there's no replacing Mauro Ranallo. No. What an incredible human being, what an incredible talent. And I don't know if you have if you've seen the new documentary he has out about him, Bipolar Rock and Roller, but how brave this guy was to let these cameras follow him into these moments and, really get that out there, what his life is like with the mental stuff that he has to deal with. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And nothing but love and respect for Mauro Ranallo. And I'm going to miss him desperately. As much as Vic Joseph is going to be a good replacement, man, I'm going to miss Mauro Ranallo, especially that keyhole cam they have on the announcers. The last takeover where they just had like a 5-minute cut together of all of like Mauro's biggest moments. And he's just jumping up and down and
frothing at the mouth,
headset almost coming off, papers flying everywhere. Oh, I'm gonna miss you, Mauro. I'm gonna miss you. Come back quickly.
Well, hey, let's go through and do our picks real quick. We'll go down the list and just say Ricochet versus Velveteen Dream. Who do you got?
Oh my God, I don't want either of these guys to lose. I got Ricochet though. They did not bring Ricochet in to lose. They did, and if there's one thing that Velveteen has shown, it is that he can get over when he doesn't go over.
Right.
You know what I mean?
He can still look strong in defeat by putting other people. It's a very strong position to work from. And I think it's kind of an honorable position to work from when you're that good that you can lose and still be over as he is with the crowd.
Jesus.
It's one of those things, like Cassius Ohno is a good example of this, or just somebody that can be that over with the crowd and still lose every now and then. Absolutely, Ricochet is going to win this.
Does nothing but lose, but still is just more massively over after every match.
Yeah.
and this is going to be an absolute barn burner. People were worried because Ricochet apparently allegedly got injured on the tour before this. But apparently, what it came out was that he tweaked himself a little bit, and they had him miss a show. People thought that he missed the show because of actual injury.
Yeah. And
Triple H came out and said, no, he's a thoroughbred. Sometimes you got to pull the reins in on him a little bit and tell him calm down. And that's basically what that was. That being said, they use those tours to train, like kind of get, practice the matches.
Yep.
If they're doing that kind of insane shit that they're telling us is happening on those tours, they do that at this takeover. Oh man,
I think we're in for a treat regardless of what happens.
Oh, no doubt.
Next up, we got the NXT Tag Championships with the Undisputed Era, Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong. Or he's not Roderick anymore. He's
you
Roderick.
like him now.
He's heel Roderick, not face Roderick. Facing off against Danny Burch, Orny Lorcan, and Pete Dunne.
UK champ Pete Dunne, who's had an incredibly long reign that no one's talking about. And he's probably going to lose it at the UK tournament because it's just someone else has got to have that.
Exactly.
This is a tough one. I think Undisputed Era is going to retain for two reasons. One, because the Burch, Lorcan, and Dunne stood tall at the end of NXT, and that's pretty much always a signifier.
Yep.
But also because they're not losing any belts. No gold is coming off of UE right now. They're going to win somehow. And I suspect it's going to be either Burch or Lorcan that gets pinned.
Yeah. Undisputed Era for me. You nailed it all. There's really no disputing this.
It's undisputed. That's
undisputed.
Great. That's hilarious.
Shayna Baszler facing off against Nikki Cross for the women's championship. Who do you got here?
Shayna all day long. She's not losing this belt just yet. Not to Nikki. I actually have a suspicion that Nikki will lose this match, but look strong in defeat and then show up with Sanity later on. I think that's one reason they've been holding Sanity back was they know that Nikki is a part of it, and they wanted to give her a little shine in NXT, make her look like something because she wasn't really doing anything for a while there. They didn't have a place for her. I think they might be shining her up a little bit before sending her along with her boys and Sanity. I hope this is the case. This is a rumor and speculation. I really hope I'm right about that because that would be preferable.
Folks, this is what happens when you do a podcast with someone for over a year. You get into each other's heads. You took the words out of my mouth. I was saving it until this part, but you beat me to it. I think Nikki Cross looks really strong in defeat here, but Shayna does retain. It's too soon to take it off of her, but I think we get some sort of Sanity debut interference at Money in the Bank, and I think Nikki Cross is going to join them. I think this is going to be an interesting debut for Sanity showing up at Money in the Bank.
I really hope so.
Yep.
All right, Aleister Black versus Lars Sullivan. You going to take your boy on this one?
Of course.
Oh!
Of course. Of course. Even though in my heart of hearts, I know that it's not true. It can't happen because they're not going to take it off Aleister, but There's part of me going, God, he destroyed Aleister Black.
Yeah.
But Aleister's going to find some kind of
You're letting them striker.
You just
don't
fight.
care.
I know. I don't care. Lars Sullivan. I love Lars Sullivan. God, can you imagine Lars Sullivan facing Braun Strowman for a championship one day?
I have no problem. Yes, and it's going to be awesome. I have no problem winning this takeover pick'ems because of your markery. I have no problem with that whatsoever.
That's fine.
Gargano.
Who won WrestleMania legit again?
One time.
This guy?
You won one pay-per-view.
When
Congratulations.
When it matters.
That's all right. Good point there. It was when it mattered.
Yeah.
Gargano versus Ciampa in a Chicago street fight, whatever that means.
Who cares? I don't care. Just give me the match.
It's going to be a war.
Oh, this is going to be devastation. It's a coin flip. Actually, the more I think about it,
really,
I think. Well, here's my takeaway from the things that have transpired over the last week or two. Gargano's going to get too ahead of himself, too much in his head, almost like AJ Styles has been doing the last couple of weeks with Nakamura. I think Ciampa is going to get this win. And I think it's just going to continue to embroil this feud. And much like the AJ and Knock feud, this is going to go on much longer. This is going to go all the way to Brooklyn this summer.
Yeah.
So, it's Ciampa's turn, and it's going to be because Gargano just got ahead of himself. He's feuding with his wife now.
Yeah.
He's embroiled and tunnel visioned, and that's going to make him lose.
Exactly. As I said, he's going to the dark side a little bit too much. I think that he needs to get broken down, beaten by Ciampa here, and then be built back up into a babyface for Brooklyn, a redemption story, if you will. Like, that's what this needs. It needs a redemption. And if he wins now, it proves all his worst instincts right, all Gargano's worst instincts right? do something crazy and stupid that your wife doesn't want you to do, and just throw her to the side in your, quest for revenge. If you have him win here, then that says that's okay.
Yeah.
And that's the story you're telling. And I don't think that's the story that they want to tell with this. I think that they're going to come back around and have Gargano just get his ass beat here and have Ciampa win and lord that over him and just be an even bigger dick for the next few months. And we'll see another chapter of this at Brooklyn where, the big stuff tends to go down.
Is it possible they double turn these two with Gargano doing something like crazy vicious?
What? Oh, yeah. Ciampa is so close to being a face. Yeah, you could totally turn Ciampa. Get out of here.
No, I'm just kidding.
Get out of here. Good God.
This is so good. I want to watch this every week.
Yeah.
This is like tuning into my favorite soap opera, this feud.
It's my stories.
It's just so good.
It's
so
my
good.
stories. All right, man, we're going to talk really quickly about 205 Live. It was not a huge week this week over on the old cruiserweight division, but still some fun stuff.
Yeah.
Lucha House Party, we had a 3-on-3 match. They defeated Drew Gulak, the Brian Kendrick, and Gentleman Jack Gallagher. Lindsay Dorado got a roll-up on Kendrick. It was just a fun match to watch, is what you'd expect.
Kind of been the start of 205 Live for the last month or so.
Yeah, it's the official, like, mid-card, like, lower card. You had Akira Tozawa come out and squash a dude. TJP is still bitching about how he doesn't get any competition, which means they're still having a holding pattern on him until he gets into an actual feud. I'm curious who they're going to have him feud with. And then our big match of the week was Mustafa Ali versus Tony Nese. Tony Nese has been aligning himself with Buddy Murphy, so this was kind of a continuation of that top of the card feud involving Mustafa Ali, Buddy Murphy, and Cedric Alexander.
And last week we had Hideo Itami get involved with the Buddy Murphy and Ali match, which led to a whole quick churn of the story at the end of this show.
Yeah, we didn't see Itami this week. We saw him in a quick promo, like a selfie promo, because he was banned from the show because of his actions last week. Because Drake Maverick, who is a fantastic GM and a great character, like the way that they're building him as a strong face GM, the guy who does not take crap lightly, doesn't like it when heels pull heels shit. And he sent him home and said, Tommy's not going to be here this week because of this crap he pulled last week. We like actual competition here. But
I wonder if he was just out getting that flap removed from his armpit.
Oh, Jesus. Tommy's, once you see the surgery botch.
Listeners, you can't unsee it.
His left armpit, his surgery botch, is just, once you see it, it's like a flying squirrel.
He's got a bat wing.
That being said, I wouldn't say it to his face. He'd kick my head off. I love how authoritative Maverick is. It's great. But next week, he made a match because of the request of Buddy Murphy and Mustafa Ali, who beat Tony Nese this week. He's going to give us a three-way. Next week, we're going to have Hideo Itami, Mustafa Ali, and Buddy Murphy. That's a pay-per-view quality match, and we're going to have that next week. Cannot wait.
Taped after SmackDown Live. Just why throw it away?
Yeah, if you go to a SmackDown Live show, stick around afterwards and cheer for these guys because my God, they do good work on the show.
All right, Ian. Well, it's time. It's finally time to talk about Dominion.
Oh my goodness!
So this is the other, besides Wrestle Kingdom in January. This is the second big pay-per-view that they have of the year for New Japan Pro Wrestling. I would almost say G1 is kind of right there with Dominion, but
that's a whole tournament. Sure. We had the Super Junior tournament, and now we're gonna have G1 next, which is the heavyweight. But yes, we had Dominion, and if you did not watch this show, you missed out. I mean, New Japan does do a lot of I'm not going to say meaningless tag matches, but less meaning to them. They're a little bit of story churning, but not a whole lot really. Like, you could watch the top three matches of the show and really get about 80% of what you need to see in the show. And that's largely because the top three matches were all three absolute classics.
Yes.
You had Will Ospreay versus Hiromu Takahashi, which was absolutely freaking insane from start. I mean, they started off with Will Ospreay doing like a 20-foot leap off of the ramp, doing a flip at Hiromu Takahashi. I literally, the last time I openly exclaimed at a match, I can't even remember. I stood up and openly was like, "Holy shit!" I don't do that often. And I did that for this match.
I think Callis and the other guys even lost their shit as well. Jesus Christ!
It's absolutely insane. And they weren't done there. It was a great technical match. It was a well told story. People have often said that Will Ospreay is a spot monkey. He may do a lot of spots, but he can tell a story while doing those spots. That's why he's getting so good. But he did drop the belt to Hiromu here. Hiromu, a year after losing it to Kushida at the same event, picks Mr. Belto back up, along with his title for the Best of Super Juniors, his one-winged title for the Best of Super Juniors. He is now your junior heavyweight champion.
Noticeably absent was Daryl.
Well, Daryl was actually, he was the support animal after he lost Mr. Belto.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So
no need for. So now that he's got his belt back, he can just kick Daryl to the side. I mean, I noticed Daryl had some of his relatives in the crowd, in the audience, watching, cheering on Takahashi. So I wanted to see Daryl, but it's a shame that Hiromu's just going to chuck him to the side now that he's got Mr. Belto back.
I think we're so trained by the gimmickry of WWE that we assume that he always has to have Daryl with him to be, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but you become invested. You want to see Daryl supporting Hiromu. So.
Yeah, it's hard to not be invested with Daryl after Bad Luck Fale rips his guts out. That was so tragic. But that was the thing. Hiromu won, and that was one of only 2 matches where Japanese won. Every other match was won by Gaijins, which is a big deal. I don't think it's ever happened that this many Gaijins have won, and this many Gaijins have won titles. In the never open weight, you had Hiroki Goto versus Taichi versus Michael Elgin, and Elgin won, which I did not see coming.
No,
and he's Canadian, and he picked up he's the first Canadian to ever hold the never open weight belt. I think he might be the first Gaijin to hold it.
Homework assignment for you. Has there ever been a time where all of the belts changed hands in one pay-per-view like this?
Not that I can think of, but not all the belts changed hands.
Which one did?
The junior tag champs. The junior belts did not. The junior tag belts did not.
I thought the Young Bucks took that.
No, that's the heavyweight tag belts.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Heavyweight tag belts taken by the Young Bucks. They beat Evil and Sonata, which we called them to do. Young Bucks. I think it was time for Evil and Sonata to move on, especially because in one of our main events, which was Jericho versus Naito for the Intercontinental belt, Jericho won. Which
Clockwork
we are gonna spend some time discussing, because this is madness on so many levels. Chris Jericho just won the New Japan Intercontinental belt, and the only reason that's not in our big news is because Omega beat Okada.
Right.
Otherwise, that would be our big news. But I think that Evil and Sonata lost the tag belts because now Evil, after Jericho beat the crap out of Naito, he beat him up. First of all, the match was just a street fight, basically.
Yeah.
And after the match,
you're talking about Jericho Naito?
Yeah.
Before the bell rang, the best parts of the match were before the bell ever rang.
With Jericho just
destroyed his ass for 10 minutes.
Toss him around, still in his nice suit.
He was busted open before he got into his ring gear, out of his suit.
And it was a hard-hitting match after that, too. But then Jericho wins and then continues to beat up Naito until Evil comes out for the save and chases Jericho off. And Jericho's sitting there going, "Who the hell are you?" Well, I think he's going to find out. I think we're going to see a future feud between Evil and Jericho. And I think that'd be a good feud, actually, because Evil he's really underrated.
Yeah, he is.
He's really good. So I would love to see that feud going forward.
He almost died last year in the G1.
Jesus Christ, that was a hard hit. But but here's the thing. Okay, let's stop for a second. We've talked about all kind of like a lot of the big stuff here, Okada and all the rest of it. We got to talk about Jericho holding the IC belt, because there's a couple of different aspects to this. One, Jericho is not working that often in New Japan. And there's speculation he might not even be back to do a match until October. So your IC belt's gone for that long. Now, it's not uncommon to have long title reigns in New Japan. That's fine. But to have a belt just be completely absent is very unlike them.
Yeah. I think we talked last week about how many times during his long reign Okada actually defended the championship.
It was pretty regular, yeah.
So, I mean, is Jericho pulling a Brock Lesnar here and just kind of going absentee until they book him?
It's hard to say. And Jericho is really good at muddying the water, if you will, otherwise known as lying, and trying to work people. It's how this whole feud came around, is him saying he's done with New Japan, he's never going back there, and all of a sudden he shows up and attacks Naito. So, but one thing that he has been very clear about is he won't work in the U.S. because he doesn't want to piss off Vince. He would see it
makes sense.
You know what I mean? Vince would see it as a slap in the face. Now, and he said that in interviews. We actually had one put up in our discussion group. And I don't have it in front of me who put that up, but thank you to whoever did that.
Was it my Gator guy?
Was it Derek?
Gator guy McCray?
I don't remember it being Derek, but at any rate, It got put up on our group, and the question was, what does this mean? Is this Jericho saying that he's not gonna have it in the States, and if so, why? And basically, no. If he thinks Vince is going to be offended by it, he doesn't want to piss off the guy who's, at the end of the day, made him the most money and is going to make him the most money. He still has respect for him, and you're right. It was Derek, but he's not gonna piss off Vince. And unless, now here's the only thing. Is he can say that till he's blue in the face. We don't know what he and Vince are saying to each other behind closed doors. Yeah. So could Jericho show up at the G1? Could he defend it in other places if he goes and gets Vince's blessing first? Yeah. There's rumors of WWE talking to New Japan about exchanging talent. We could see like a dream match like Tanahashi and Cena. Or
how many of them are in WWE
Naito
right
and
now?
Daniel Bryan. Right, you know what I mean?
New Japan people.
We could be seeing some of these big crossovers. If that's the case, Jericho might have been the first salvo that he might be creating those bridges, and we could see him with Vince's blessing show up over here. Now, because you can't take Jericho at his word. You can't.
I just had a thought, and you'll have to excuse me, listener. AJ Styles versus Kenny Omega one day. I kind of just lost my shit internally. Yeah. Oh my God, if that's possible.
Well, right. And I mean, especially if they kind of take the gloves off of them.
Right.
So it's a very strange decision to put the IC belt on Jericho. As I said on the last show, I didn't like it being on Naito because Naito has openly said before he hates the belt, the Intercontinental belt. Right. It's beneath him. So it didn't make any sense for him to have it. And it was telling when they took it off Minoru Suzuki so quickly and at a kind of a lesser show that they had something in mind. Putting it on Jericho was not what I expected.
No.
So that's
to be determined.
To be determined, and it's one of those things where we can speculate all day long. Meltzer's saying he doesn't think Jericho will wrestle till October. I'm sitting here looking at Jericho running his mouth about, I'm not going to piss on Vince's shoe. And I'm thinking, yeah, unless you ask Vince first, he might let you. So I don't know. We'll see. We will see.
He has openly said he's not going to be a part of All In with Cody and the Young Bucks. So
I think
he said it in that interview that Derek posted. He explicitly said, look, I'm not going to be a part of All In because I don't want to piss off Vince. I don't want to bring as a title holder, I don't want to bring that to U.S. soil. So I'm not going to be a part. I'm not going to be at the Cow Palace.
Right.
I'm not going to be at All In.
Right. I believe him more about All In than the Cow Palace. I'll put it that way. I think that if he's under New Japan's umbrella, it's going to be less offensive than if he's under Cody's umbrella.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
So
very good point.
Yeah. But I'm very curious to see. I think that this is one place where we could probably take Jericho at his word, but you really can never take Jericho at his word. The other question that we had before we get into the listener questions proper was what's next for Naito? Aaron Collier, excuse me, sorry, brother. Asked what's next for Naito? What's Naito going to do now? He seems like his stock has been dropping. It looked like he was going to take the belt at Wrestle Kingdom. He was being built up for it. He won the G1 last year. Looks like he was going places, and then he loses that belt. He loses the Intercontinental belt to Jericho. It's like, where does he go now? What does he do? I would not be too worried about Naito, despite what it sounded like at Dominion. He's not well liked in Osaka. So don't look at that. He is still one of the most popular guys in New Japan. They're not going to drop him.
I expect him to have another successful G1 this summer. Maybe not a win, but he'll go far. He's going to have a good tournament. And I'll have a better idea and be able to answer that question better, at least from my perspective, after the G1 to see how he performs there. But we got 3-4 months, really, before we get to that point, right?
Yeah, I could see even Okada going all the way in the G1 this year as a way to come down off of being the champ for 2 freaking years. And what Okada does next is going to be very interesting as well. Does he fall back into the Chaos stable and become a leader again, and really kind of help guide that stable and become a little more part of it? Or does he strike out on his own? He's had a long story of getting where he got. This is the end of a massive chapter for him. So his path is wide
end of a massive
open.
Chapter for New Japan.
It is. It is. But he has so many places he could go now. It really is difficult to speculate because there's so many different ways they could handle the Okada situation right now. And I think kind of the same with Naito. He's falling again. His whole Naito's career has been a whole bunch of rising and falling. Okada's has been kind of a straight trajectory upwards for the most part.
Yeah.
And I think that Naito's journey is going to be a little bit. I'm not worried about him losing these matches. Put it that way. But I am very curious what they're going to do with Okada next, because it could be freaking just about anything. I don't think he's going to rematch with Kenny anytime soon.
No.
I mean, how do you continue? How do you continue?
Well, it's interesting
feud?
you said that, because for me, I mean, of this match, while it was absolutely spectacular, it wasn't. I'm still going to go back to the G1 match is probably my favorite of the 4 of their matches. But it was still fantastic. But the most interesting part for me happened after the victory and after the celebration and after he gave his speech. I think we need to spend a minute talking about. You had Nick and Matt come down, the Young Bucks come down to congratulate and kind of reconcile the elite, the Bullet Club elite. And just, it was kind of an awkward moment. You didn't know what was going to happen there, because they're standing right outside the ring after he's given his speech, and they come up and there was this pause, and then they just embraced. Mm-hmm. Great. I sportsmanship. Love this kind of stuff. You guys know me by this point. And then to make it even more awkward, Cody walks out from the back halfway down the ramp, stops, and is looking at them while they're embracing, turns around and walks back out. And I'm sitting there going, foreshadowing.
Yeah, but of what?
I don't know, but I'm into it.
So they formed the Golden Elite,
yes,
right? Which
in the press conference afterwards.
Yes. So there's almost like a new faction. I don't know if it's official yet, but it's kind of a new faction. Bullet Club is now its own thing. You got a bunch of guys over there, and the Golden Elite is now its own thing. I could even see Okada joining the Golden Elite, maybe ditching Chaos.
What?
That's a long shot.
What?
That's me completely spitballing. Don't take me seriously on that, but that would be really cool.
Oh man!
But that being said, so now they have their whole new faction, and it's really going to be curious to see if this faction continues to feud with Bullet Club, or if they go on to become a larger faction, take on new members, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, we are at a major turning point now in New Japan, and they've been killing it for 2 years now. So, I mean, I am all in on where they're going to go next. But that being said, one thing you said to me this week is you have a hard time keeping up on it.
I do, and it was like, first of all, it was a 6-hour pay-per-view. I mean, when you first turned the thing on, it was like 5 hours and 40 minutes, and I just went, oh my God. I don't have 6 hours. I mean, I had to go through it in like 3 sittings. I even fast forwarded through like at 2x just to watch whatever happened in the outcomes.
Yeah, you could skip the Yoshihashi Jay White match.
Yeah, the Show and Yo match, was that the other one?
Yeah, don't skip that one. That one's actually really good.
I might need to go back and watch that one, but I wanted to see the big 3 matches, and this was Ospreay and Hiromu, and Naito and Jericho, and Okada Omega.
Yeah, and if you're not into New Japan, those are the 3 to go watch. Yeah. You don't need to know a ton of history of those. It's just good matches. It's a damn good wrestling matches.
Yeah. And so in a way, it feels more like an exhibition than an overall event. Like each of the matches individually feel like a thing rather than the pay-per-view being an event. And that's where I haven't gotten past yet, because I've been watching WWE for 30 years, and it's just a matter of, like, I expect there to be a little bit of spectacle and dramatization between the matches, or surrounding the pay-per-view as a whole, and you really don't get that. It's rude to stand up and cheer in New Japan. You don't get a lot of like chanting other than the Naito girl squeals every now and then, which they were there in full force this weekend. So
not as full force. It was Osaka. You're lucky it was Osaka.
Well, no, I said they were never. They were there in full. Never mind.
They were there. They just weren't. They weren't as bad as it could have been.
But that's my only issue with it. Is the technicality and the proficiency of the mat wrestling the best in the world? Absolutely. I still find some of the hits uncomfortable. I think that's something that our friend of the show, Jared, and I, one of my longtime buddies, share as a sentiment. When you see the 27th time Suzuki forearm shots Ishii in the head, and then they start headbutting each other, I start getting uncomfortable.
That Ishii Minoru Suzuki match the tag match was great.
Yeah.
I could.
Well, what happened after the match was even better.
Yeah, where they're sword fighting with chairs and running after each other and beating the crap out of each other. I would love to get them to get a proper feud.
Oh,
going again.
Somebody would. That would be the ultimate. Somebody might die.
It already kind of is.
Yeah.
And Minoru Suzuki is about to turn 50, by the way. By the way, almost happy birthday to him. But yeah, no, I get it. Like some of the things are a little bit off-putting, especially if you are conditioned to WWE. It's a very different style. Even their storytelling is very different, especially their storytelling is very different in how you have to keep up on what exactly is going on. You have to follow press conferences. Sometimes you have to watch some of their lesser shows because of interactions that happen during tag matches that tell you it's in the details, these little details of the story that happen.
Yeah.
Sometimes they even do things on like with the Elite, where if you don't watch the Being the Elite show on YouTube, you don't know what the story is. So it is a completely different presentation, and I get that. And it's not going to be for everybody, especially if you've been raised on WWE. And the really the easiest metaphor to make is if you've been raised on Hollywood blockbusters, it's hard to then go and watch a Truffaut film. You know what I mean? Like you can watch The Seventh Seal, but if you're so used to the Transformers, you're going to be dying watching that thing.
Yeah.
Or
2001 or something like that.
Yeah. 2001's a great example too. If you watch that film, it's incredibly well made. And even if you're someone who's used to blockbusters, you can watch that film and go, wow, this is a really good film. It's boring me to tears.
Yeah. I have no idea what's going on.
And just, okay, great. Glad I saw it. I'm going to go back and watch another Avengers movie.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that's the disparity there. And that's nothing good nor bad on either side of that. Like if you just want to watch the big blockbusters, that's fine. If you want to watch an art house film, that's fine too. And it's all personal choice.
I think a good way to sum this up for me, based on what you were just saying, is I really appreciate the spectacle that is 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's just not a lot of fun.
It's not where you're going to put on a Saturday night when you want to sit down with a pizza.
Right. So that's when I put on Money in the Bank, right? Because I know that there's going to be some crazy, goofy shit happening and all that stuff. But if I want to see some professional wrestling, like proper mat wrestling, I'm either watching the Brits or the New Japan promotion.
Absolutely.
So, man, that's where my struggle is with it. I want to be more excited about it. I want to be more like into the storylines. I just haven't gotten to that point of investment yet.
But you know what? It's a great thing is kind of like when Oscar season rolls around and like, oh, these are the films that were really, really quote unquote, well made this year. This is like the best cinematography film. You know what I mean? Like, okay, now you have a pointer. Okay, that's kind of like when one of these big shows come along. Dominion comes along, right? Okay, Hiromu versus Ospreay. We know that's going to be an amazing match. Period. Right. It's kind of like being directed towards one of those matches as opposed to having to watch all of them all year long and just to get those one or two really, really, really good ones. Right. So it can be kind of like that for someone who doesn't follow it all the time, where you pick and choose which of these art house Oscar bait films you watch, and then the rest of the time you watch Avengers.
Yeah,
and that's fine.
You kind of just described me right there. Well, hey, Ian, let's get to some listener questions. We want to start things off with Andrea. Been very active in the group. Nice, always love seeing you around, Andrea. Number one, would it benefit Roman Reigns to get rid of the Superman punch or vary it in some way? Ian, take it away.
I don't think of all the things that would benefit Reigns, I don't think the Superman punch is something that needs to be changed or altered. I think it is what it is. It's like Hogan's leg drop, where it's established that's just part of who he is. And if there's anything else about his character that needs to change to make him be better, that's not the place to start.
I think it's a fun signature move. I think the name of it is dumb.
I think the way that Michael Cole yells it out is dumb. Superman punch.
I agree the name is dumb, but I like the style that it has in a sense. I like it as a signature move and not a finisher. I think he used to use it as a kind of pseudo finisher
for his spear.
Right.
Yeah.
It's more of a signature move. When he was using it in the Shield, they did the triple power bomb, and that was the big finisher. So now that he's in singles, he has to use the spear, which I think is dumb.
Yeah, I'm not
the
a fan.
Spear is so overused.
I'm not a fan of his spear. I'm more a fan of his Superman punch than his spear.
Agreed.
To be honest with you, and I think that it's more iconic of him, and he does it really well.
Yeah, he does.
I remember a couple where there's one I think against Seth Rollins, where Seth Rollins came off the top rope and Roman's caught him in midair with one, and it looked just spectacular. So no, Superman punch I think is the least of his problems.
Exactly. Go learn to promo. Number two, she said, should Nia and Ronda be a slow build to get Ronda more experience in the ring without the worry of her hurting someone with a botched spot? Ooh.
Why don't you take this?
Nick's question. I think Nia just needs to get the hell out of the way.
No.
That's what I'm saying. No disrespect to her or the big girls or anything like that. That's not the point. The point is, she doesn't know her own strengths. She doesn't know how to work with someone that's half of her size safely. You guys have heard me rattling on and on about this. Let's move on.
For the record, I disagree. I don't think Nia is anywhere near as bad as you seem to think that she is. I think she's actually pretty good with her weight and her strength. But as far as a slow build, no, I don't think it should be a slower build at all. It's been slow enough. And the fact that there has been no physicality yet is not helping Ronda get more experience. If anything, they've thrown her to the wolves on the microphone for the most part, which is obviously her weakest aspect right now. Yeah. I think that her physicality is one of her strongest aspects. And I'm not really worried about. I'm not worried about how these girls hurting each other. Like I feel like they're both really tough chicks who, are not. They're going to be able to get some physicality without hurting each other. And I don't think that slowing it down is going to help. I think that Ronda needs to be doing more work with someone who's more experienced than Nia Jax.
Oh, okay. So I misread the question, or I interpreted it the wrong way. She's referring to Ronda getting more experience in the ring without the worry of Ronda hurting someone. And I think you brought this up and mentioned it earlier in the vein of, is she going to do some UFC shit and maybe get disqualified?
Well, I mean, we could take this either way, as either Nia or Ronda hurting each other. Yeah, really.
They're both relatively. I mean, Nia's still relatively new to the roster, so I don't know. The fact that these two are the very top of the card with the entire amount of talent that you've got on Monday Night Raw is appalling to me. And I don't really know that's why I've been so down on this. Like, really?
I think it makes sense because Ronda, here's why, is because Ronda is going to be a big draw to the casual audience, and the casual audience wants to see Ronda go up against someone who they don't think she can beat. And there's no one else on the roster who looks anywhere near as intimidating as Nia Jax to a casual fan who's never seen anybody else. So they come in and they see the person that they know, Ronda Rousey, versus this 6'2" behemoth of a woman who can pick Ronda up like a rag doll. That they're going to look at and be like, damn, all right, Ronda's in a whole new world now. Yeah. So that's why they're doing it. Nothing to do with experience or anything else.
I know, I get it.
So number 3 of Andrea's questions is Mustafa, spelled Mustangs, but I believe she means Mustafa Ali.
Yay, autocorrect.
Yay, autocorrect. Is Mustafa Ali...
I like Mustangs Ali better. Now entering the ring, Mustangs Ali.
Yeah, it does sound like a 1950s wrestler name. Yeah. Is Mustafa Ali a better babyface than Cedric Alexander? Ooh. I'm going to... You know what? I'm going to say yes.
I'm torn.
I'm going to say yes.
I think he's a better promo than Cedric. I think they're both about the same, on par as far as baby faces go. I mean,
Cedric's a little more bland.
That's what I'm saying. He's bland. I think Mustafa could be an interesting champion down the road. But I think we're going to go heel next, though.
Yeah, he's got a little more character going on. I think he's becoming a little bit more interesting. He's doing better work.
Oh, he's definitely come leaps and bounds throughout this tournament, the first half of this year.
He's got a better story, like his overcoming the odds, his overcoming his own name and his racial identity and everything. Like, he's kind of got a better story on Cedric, and we have gone on record. We love us some Cedric.
Yes,
we love us some Cedric. But yeah, Mustafa Ali right now might be a better babyface than Cedric Alexander. Her 4th question is, what makes a good babyface?
That's a whole episode on itself.
That's a huge question.
It's very subjective too. I think everybody's going to react that way to that question differently.
Yeah.
I'm going to just say Johnny Gargano and let you draw conclusions
or
around
Sami Zayn in NXT. Sami Zayn, you missed that era of NXT.
Kind of, yeah.
You missed it. He was he
carried that pretty forward into
amazing
when he
face.
debuted.
And he was an underdog babyface. That was a particular style of babyface, right? You have a few different styles of babyface, but typically you have it's an underdog thing, but you also have like the big strong babyfaces too. And it's basically all it takes is for people to get behind you and want to see you win.
Yeah.
And want to see you win. That's all that it takes. Literally.
Inner fight, kind of just a go-getter attitude, that kind of, if you want some bullet points of things, it's just, you have to know how to work an audience the same way a heel has to know how to work an audience. And it's just different tactics for different methods.
And a lot of times it just has to do with basic internal charisma. It's something you cannot teach. Either someone is a good babyface or they are not. And you can't force someone to be a babyface if they're just not a babyface. Roman Reigns. So it's, We could go off on this, but we'll leave it at that for right now. It is just an innate ability to make people like you and want you to win. Next question, Deuce Elefante. Do our lives regain a semblance of normalcy with the conclusion to the Lashley-Zayn feud on Sunday? Is the end in sight, or is Sunday wishful thinking? So does it continue? And if it doesn't continue, is our long national nightmare finally over?
I think so. I think this is it.
I think it's over. If it's
done.
not over, they're insane. They're insane if it's not over. And do our lives regain a semblance of normalcy? A semblance
it's still Monday Night Raw.
Until another Lashley, This Is Your Life comes along.
Yeah. Next up, Derek McGator. Derek, I'm going to call him McGator Guy from now on. McGator Guy. So we got the video package of Bianca Belair to give her a little bit of shine, and it came off to him that she's ready for a title shot. I'd love to see her, Baszler, Evans, and Cross mix it up in a fatal four-way. Is this good fantasy booking? The question is, who would you like to see win it if it were to happen, and how would you book the immediate future? So we're talking about Belair, Baszler, Evans,
Lacey Evans, and Nikki Cross.
Yeah.
As of right now, I would love to see Baszler win that because I think she should stay on the top, but I can see. I mean, I think, like I said, I think Nikki Cross is on her way out of this whole thing.
Yeah.
Lacey Evans, I don't think should be on the top among these ones.
Very close.
Bianca Belair, I'm ready for her to just skip all of this.
Yeah, me
frankly.
too.
And it's something to do with how much shine they're giving with her video packages. I think she's solid gold. We were watching her this week, and I was like, dude, I want to see her face Charlotte now.
Yes. I agree with you. I don't think Baszler's ready to go for that, and without that title, I'm scared for what is left for her to do. She's in that weird spot where she almost has to keep it.
She's got to be booked as a monster or she's toast.
Yeah. I like Lacey Evans. I think there's a potential that she's next after Baszler, or at least the next kind of sort of heel to come up. But I don't know, man. I'm scared of letting Nikki Cross get out of NXT without having that belt. She's been so good, but they did the same thing with Ruby Riott.
I was
so high on Nikki Cross and Ruby Riott last summer. And now look at how good Ruby's doing on the main roster, and she's getting a little bit of a push. Cross mixing it up with Baszler this weekend is going to be interesting to see how that turns out. Evans she's a 6-foot blonde. She's going to have no problems with her future. That is actually big and can work as well. The one that I'm really worried about the most out of all four of those is Baszler, because I don't know what she does if she's not the champ. Yeah. I really don't.
Well, she's not a monster, I think.
I think all three of those other ones have big futures already wrapped around them. Baszler's kind of got to be that title holder right now. I think
Bianca Belair is kind of like the Velveteen Dream, where it's just a matter of you just make sure that car stays on the road, and it's going to take you forever. She's got so much going for her. She's still young. Yeah, that's... moving on. Dominic Jacques, I agree with you that Strowman doesn't need the briefcase. However, if he doesn't win, what do you do with him for SummerSlam? And do you think both briefcases are going to Raw this year? Wouldn't that be better if they could cash on any championship that they want, as opposed to just on
That's an interesting point.
Yeah, so let's take this piece by piece. With Strowman, what does he do for some? Well, we have Extreme Rules between now and SummerSlam as well. We have another pay-per-view between now and SummerSlam.
Okay.
And there's a lot you can do with Strowman. You can put him anywhere. It just depends on how you want to write his logic for where he goes. He can feud with pretty much anyone. There's Kevin Owens. If Kevin Owens cost him the briefcase, looked like they were doing a little something with Kevin Owens and Strowman.
Yeah,
last week.
You read my mind again. I think that we're looking at a potential Kevin Owens and Braun Strowman feud going here. I wouldn't be mad at that, but I think it's a good question. On this point, I don't know that if we can tell. Like it's still going to be Roman and Brock somehow at SummerSlam.
Well, maybe. Apparently, Brock hasn't been booked for anything yet officially. Real quick though, I want to answer this last part. If you could cash the championship on any championship they want, they cash the Money in the Bank on any championship, you can. They established that at WrestleMania. That Carmella could have cashed in on Charlotte, the Raw one. Sorry, on Nia and Alexa. That Carmella could have cashed in on Nia and Alexa. They established that you could cash in on the other brand if you wanted.
What I thought Dominic was alluding to was if you could cash it in for the U.S. title or the Intercontinental title or whatever. That's what I would. That's what I went. Oh, okay.
I think
that's an interesting concept.
I think it has been defined that it is for the heavyweight championships only and not for the lesser championships. But you can go to either brand. I think that has been established in kayfabe.
Okay.
All right, and finally, Rule Sheeran's. He says, everyone seems to assume that Nikki Cross isn't part of Sanity anymore, but during the last NXT live show in Antwerp, she was announced as representing Sanity. Hey, could it be the reason why they held back Sanity? This is what we were saying earlier. Could it be the reason why they hold back Sanity is because they want to introduce them with Nikki on the main roster? I feel this wasn't the original idea, but they may have changed their mind because the faction with Nikki is just more interesting. Rule,
get out of my head, Rule.
Brilliant. Yes, we agree. We totally
I would not
100%
be surprised.
agree.
I would not be surprised if we saw a Sanity sneak debut at Money in the Bank or maybe SmackDown Live next week with Nikki Cross in tow. I agree with you. I think they've held off on Sanity until they could get Nikki Cross out of NXT.
Rule, do you work as a writer for WWE?
Yeah.
Because if not, you should.
Yes.
Guys, thanks everybody for asking those questions this week. We look forward to answering some more next week. This is a lot of fun, and we love interacting with you guys. We do have to quickly get through some other news before the end of the show. We didn't even get to talk about the fact that Lucha Underground is back.
And they opened the show with Aztec Warfare.
They opened the show with their version of the Royal Rumble, which has set up all kinds of new feuds. I mean, we'll break down Lucha Underground next week when we have a little bit more time. But yeah, Lucha is back, and it's still awesome.
Off with a bang.
Another news, Brock Lesnar has officially beaten CM Punk's world title record at 435 days as the heavyweight champ. They did make note of this on WWE.com and during the shows this week. As we said that they would, they love to rub this crap into people's faces. I think that there are just too many coincidences with things happening around Punk going back to UFC and fighting this match, whether it be Brock passing his record, whether it be the trial with the Dr. Man trial, which they pushed back and pushed back and pushed back.
Vince was basically
to try
bankrolling
and get it as close to the UFC match as possible. I think there's just too many coincidences where they're trying to get in Punk's head with this stuff, because they have a history of being petty like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, Brock has officially beaten the record. Also, Ring of Honor is trying to get a show at Madison Square Garden, kind of like AAA did. Mm-hmm. It certainly seems like the wolves are circling, at least on WWE. They're trying to get their claws into what was the mainstay for WWE, the main arena, Madison Square Garden, for decades and decades and decades. That was the home of WWE.
Yes.
And now that they've gone over to the Barclays Center, it seems like everyone else is trying to come and stick it to the WWE because now Madison Square Garden is mad at WWE for kind of throwing them under the bus. So that will be interesting to keep an eye on. I don't know if Ring of Honor can sell out a show that big, but
that's a lot of tickets.
That's the rumor.
Yeah. Hey, next up, Jeff Cobb is rumored to be back at New Japan, coming up at Kazuna Road, possibly in the G1.
It ain't a rumor. The boy is in a match at Kazuna Road. It's a big tag match, but yeah, he's back in New Japan. I would love to see him in the G1. Oh, I would love to see. Please let him be in the G1.
Make that happen.
Yep.
Don Callis.
And in other news, Paige, Rusev, and Lana apparently were robbed at a Memphis Sheraton. Apparently, some things were taken from their rooms, including a camera and some cash.
So the rooms were broken into. They weren't like held at gunpoint.
No, they weren't held at gunpoint.
Sure, okay.
Their stuff of theirs was stolen.
Yeah.
But the issue came because apparently the Sheraton staff were extremely unhelpful. In fact, the head of security even said that it was their fault for leaving things in the room. And were generally unhelpful. Paige said online how bad the staff was, and Rusev and Lana were basically saying this happened. And because they're being so unhelpful, yeah, we're lawyering up. They basically are dicks. So,
how are you going to sue a Sheraton? And for what?
Well, it's this
They're
particular
worth
Sheraton.
millions.
It's this particular Sheraton.
Okay.
It's this franchise. So,
what else is going on? What do we got? Last couple of bits here.
yeah, we got Rev Pro. A little news out of Rev Pro. The UK Strong Style Evolved. Suzuki and Zack Sabre Jr., who are the current tag champs over there, they're putting their tag belts on the line against Kazuchika Okada and Tomohiro Ishii.
Well, we wondered what Okada was going to do. I guess we know.
There you go. I can see Suzuki and Sabre.
What?
Yeah, I could see them being the tag champs over there. I could actually see it now that Okada's not the heavyweight champ. This is the kind of stuff he can go do now. Get other belts, go all over the place with his buddy Ishii and wreck stuff.
God, just put Suzuki and Ishii against each other everywhere. I just want to watch that and be uncomfortable.
No kidding.
Oh.
I might have to try and watch Rev Pro just for this match.
We're getting some news out of we finally have some answers around the authors of Pain. Apparently one of their members had a visa issue.
Yep.
and that's why they haven't been on TV. Finally, that news came out.
And
so
I'm glad. I hope they now slow play everything. I don't want them to
Yes.
get ruined. Just bring them back, have them kill people. Like the tag division's in shambles. Build it up. Keep them away from Drew McIntyre and Ziggler, or have Ziggler and McIntyre become the champs, and then just have them feud with AOP or something. I don't know.
This kind of feeds into my conspiracy that they're going to put the Raw Tag Championships onto the B team so that AOP can come in and just destroy them and take them off of them.
I like your booking.
Yes.
I like that a lot.
Yeah. Well, hey, guys, we are off to Money in the Bank. We got Takeover Chicago 2 happening on Saturday, Money in the Bank happening on Sunday. Big wrestling weekend, one of my favorite pay-per-views, if not my favorite pay-per-view in all of WWE happening this weekend. If you want to come and join us during the conversation this weekend, hit us up on Twitter at BWO Podcast, or come over to Facebook and join the Busted Wide Open discussion group. Sign up, post some fun memes, video clips, all kinds of good stuff. This is going to be a busy, busy weekend of wrestling.
No kidding, because we're going to be coming back early next week with our recap of TakeOver and Money in the Bank, and then later on in the week, we're doing our regular show where we'll be talking about what went down on Raw, SmackDown, NXT, 205 Live, as well as anything that's going on in the wide world of wrestling.
Yes, so get into the Facebook group. Be ready to throw your questions up for next week. Guys, if you like what we're doing here, we would love your support, and it really helps us grow the show. Every dollar counts. Head over to patreon.com/BWO. Throw a couple of bucks in the tip jar, or sign up to do your very own shoot promo right here on the show. If you'd like to rock some sweet swag to let everybody know that we are your favorite wrestling podcast, head over to orbitaljigsaw.com/store. Pick up a t-shirt, coffee mug, phone case, hoodie, all that good stuff.
Panties.
You name it.
Yes, and also, by the way, go to our YouTube page and click our YouTube page.
I've been foreshadowing it long enough. We are on the precipice of beginning to live stream the recording of this podcast every week. So we are very, 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 very close at this point. But head over to youtube.com. Just search for Busted Wide Open. You will find our channel with our logo over there. It's very easy to find.
You'll be able to see our haggard, baggy-eyed, grimacing faces every week. It'll be awesome.
It's going to be a lot of fun, guys. We can't wait to get started. But I'm Nick Howell. You can find me on Twitter at Nick Podcasts.
And I am Sir Ian Dangerous. You can find me on Twitter at Sir Ian Dangerous.
But by God!
Will somebody stop the damn match?
This show is part of the Orbital Jigsaw Network. For more episodes, subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher Radio. For details and show notes from each episode, check us out, orbitaljigsaw.com.